First part of the question was, do you think Trump lost the election? And then the second part of the question was, how are you going to fight against outside political parties, left or right-wing extreme? So it sounds like they're saying, how are you going to fight against the extreme ends of the left or the right? Right? That's what it says.
Well, the question was twofold.
Yes.
Did President Trump lose the election? And the answer is yes to that. What was the second question?
Okay. Second part is, how do you fight against outside political parties? The wording is poor, but if I interpret it here, it sounds like what they're asking is, how do you fight against the extreme right and the extreme left? Maybe how do you find that middle ground? That's how I interpret the question. I just think it's poorly worded.
Well, so how I make decisions. I grew up at 1402 East Main Street in Round Rock, Texas. My dad was a gravel truck driver. My mom worked for the VA. I had 3 older sisters, and we didn't have a lot. But the values that I grew up with was that family was first, faith was important, and that we took care of one another. Today, there are a lot of extremes in America. Extremes that are not positive, that are more harmful than helpful. And I think for me, I have to remember where I came from. I remember what it was like growing up when we didn't have money for clothes for school. I remember what it was like when I would go to Gold's department store in Georgetown and get that new pair of Wranglers for school. And I was so grateful. I think how you make decisions, and not in the extremes, is you have to remember where you come from, and you have to remember who you are. And I think it's also important for me to remember that we are all children of God. We are all worthy of respect and dignity, regardless of where we come from. And if you're a resident here in Williamson County, I just humbly ask for your vote on November the 8th. And I'm here to represent all of the people. And I strive to do that every day. I don't know that I actually answered your extremes part, but that's just how I lead. I lead from where I come from.
Well, we'll go ahead and start with you for that question. I'll give you the first question. That's the easiest one. Do you think Trump lost the election?
Absolutely, yes.
And the second part is, how do you fight against the two extremes and I guess bring everybody back to the middle?
We just, again, we need to stop this division. You know, we have more common than disagreement. And so it's important that we unite as one America, not 2 or 3 or 4 factions of America. And so, you know, I'll be reaching out to folks like I always do. You know, when I go out there and do public service, I don't care who it is, I'll shake hands with whoever. And that's how I treat people. I treat people with respect and dignity. It's always been part of my DNA. We might disagree about how Trump and his fiasco, but it is what it is. You know, they have their own beliefs, I have my own, but I'm not gonna disrespect them. And so I think it's important that, again, the key thing that we're having issues here, and especially in this state, is so much division. We can accomplish so much work and get so many things done if we all just unite and just try to do the right thing for the public. That's why you have other countries, they're outpacing us because they're united. We're not united. And that's our own fault, and we need to fix that. And I'm gonna do whatever I can to, you know, reach across the aisle. Meet me in the middle. Thank you.
Go ahead. You have any?
No, thank you. At this point, I've got it. Yes, and so for the second part of the question, just to give you a very clear example from 2017, from his very first term. About 2 months into session, we get a very high-profile far-right group with lots of money and lots of focus and attention when folks comes by our office, starts dropping off these stacks of paper about that tall, And they say to us, we have messages here from your constituents, this is what they want to have happen. And, okay, you know, first time that happened, it was just one of our interns out front who just accepted the paper. We looked at it, photocopies of the exact same letter with different people's names and addresses at the bottom. And we go through and we actually start calling some of these people, look up their phone numbers, figure out who they are, call them and say, hey, did you actually want this message to come to us? None of them knew a thing about what was, no, I never sent that. I have no idea why my name is on that. And the reason I use this example is because the extremes are not the majority by definition, right? But they are also, like, if you know your district and you're willing to contact your district and you're willing to talk to the people that are the constituents in the district, then they thrive on being the folks who are, no, we're the ones that are interceding between you and the people in your district, right? That's what they thrive on. That no, we'll talk to them and then we'll tell you what they want and you have to listen to us because we have the bead, right? And that's how they thrive. And they thrive, and you'll always see the extremes because there's always money to be made at the extremes. And that's where they are. And so the second time they came around dropping that packet of paper off, Terry was out front, and he handed it right back to him and said, hey, no thank you. We've looked up the people, we don't trust this information, and we talked to our district. So they put out an email blast saying, hey, you guys, Terry Wilson does not want to hear from his constituents. And we started getting phone calls from people saying, hey, we hear that you don't want to talk to your constituents. You turned away this letter from this group. And so we made it a policy that whenever we got one of those calls, you spend as much time as possible with them, explain everything that happened, tell them the full story. And every one of the constituents said, yeah, no, I get it. And they have not paid attention to them again, and they have never bothered us again. And so how do you combat extremism and the folks who are profiteering off dividing folks and getting in between you and your representatives? You push back directly, and you say, you know your district, you contact your folks, and you don't pay attention to the loudest voices when they're just screaming and don't represent your district.
All right.